So if I record it, will allow me to record.
Sometimes I find myself constantly flossing, just in even random spots. Sometimes he just randomly stops. I swear he's addicted to it. I'm just worried about him.
Wow. After watching this video, now I'm worried because my son also plays Fortnite. So let's get into the idea of what addiction is. So I looked at the dictionary, few meanings. The state of being enslaved to a habit or practice or something that is psychologically or physically habit forming. When I said if it is habit forming, what does habit forming means? Tending to cause or encourage addiction, especially through psychological dependency. So, in any which way you see, it appears to be, the basic definition is a mental dependency where the mind is enslaved. The indulgence to yield to an inclination or desire. So indulgence, I felt, is also a form of addiction. We indulge into many things. Simple passions. Even TV watching, right? I mean, there are so many indulgences in subtle way. Prejudice is another indulgence. Ego is the biggest indulgence. I mean, if you kind of start adding it, pretty much most of our habits appears to be addictions. Most of our thinking patterns, most of our, without it knowing, unknowingly, we do a lot of things and we don't realize they're all part of our habit forming and addiction and indulgence. All right. So it's a life cycle. I mean, addiction has its own life cycle, and it's a never-ending cycle rather. It starts with something, and then it forms into a guilt. We're going to learn more about this. I mean, how these emotions and these addictions, craving, emotional triggers, and going back to it again and again, how it affects our the anatomy. What rather I call it spiritual anatomy. We're going to talk about it. Some of you might have heard it before. Some of you might be hearing it for the first time. So bear with me. I'll try to be explaining in simple terms. I don't get too scientific about it. So guilt. The first thing, anything which starts with is guilt. I mean, when we do it for the first time, but then when it becomes repetitive, kind of guilt takes the back burner, but it stays, it remains. But there is also an emotional trigger, right, with the guilt. And then there is a certain craving, whether it's a video game, whether it's something else. The mind, since the mind kind of it becomes a prop for the mind to function. Very interestingly, if you see, typically in Indian rituals, there is a tendency to repeat a particular word or a name, or a deity's name, a lord's name, continuously. For example, Ram, some people write a million, so they mentally repeat it for a million times, the same word. assuming that it gives them a certain level of concentration or spiritual benefit. But what they're not realizing is that it becomes the prop for the mind, and without that prop the mind cannot function. See how addictions, in a subtle way, without our knowledge, without we realizing it's an addiction, the mental, there is a mental dependency on it. A lot of things, subtle things like this we do. Suddenly our mind is attached to it. And what is the biggest addiction of today? Anyone wants to guess?
Phone.
Everyone is on mute, but
Cell phone.
the video's heading says it, the phone addiction.
Internet.
Internet, phone addiction, yeah. So without our knowledge, I mean, now we are mentally so dependent on the phone. In my previous office, my boss, he's always on the phone. And sometimes, when we were traveling on our business assignments, we happened to stay in the same hotel room because it's too expensive to have two rooms when you are going on a sales or a business assignment, especially when it's a small company. And so after we leave the workplace, all evening we are having dinner, he's on the phone. And we are about to, we go into the hotel room and then we are relaxing, he's on the phone. I mean, he's on the phone talking, sending emails, text messages. I mean, he's doing the business job, but it's still the phone. So every few seconds, if the phone is away from him, he would look at the phone. And one day I told him, all that I need to do is take your phone away for a couple of hours, then you'll be admitted in a mental hospital. So our addiction to things are so strong. Small things, we don't realize that as a problem. And once I remember Daji, he gave a talk recently, and he said even the phone games we play, it releases exactly the same chemical. I believe it's dopamine. Correct me if someone knows it very well on these narcotics. When somebody takes the narcotics, the chemical the brain releases, dopamine. The same chemical is released, like we saw in the previous video. The guy is playing video games all the time. The mind stimulus is similar to the drugs. Though he was playing the video game, he's not taking any drugs. It releases the same chemical, right? So let's play this. It's a 30-second video and then we'll get into the topic. Sorry, it appears my internet is a bit slow today.
Really?
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 Yeah, really. See, the mind is always looking attached with something. It is not free. We talk about so much freedom, especially in Occidental countries. But, are we really free? And this is another interesting thing. I mean, I probably expressed this point several times in the past, whenever I was talking to friends or, people who come to me explaining their problems. even depression, the negative emotions, worries, fears, anger, low self-esteem, we always try to play victim. Oh, this happens to me all the time. We play victim. If you look at it, even these are really addictions. Depression is an addiction. People who go through, suffer long depression, they go to the doctor, explain all the problems. They go to the counselors. They talk about it to their friends. And it becomes so much a repetitive thing. Knowingly, unknowingly, their mind is attached to that. They start liking it. So these emotions are also very addictive. We don't realize that. And as you see on my screen, they are just like chemistry of nicotine, alcohol, and drugs. They are very addictive. All these emotional, mental states. So one of the key thing, I think in the morning session also this question came up. What do I need to do when I'm going through all these things, addictions, problems, depressions, issues, right? And especially, this global crisis we are going through, right? There's so much uncertainty, and we are constantly brooding over it. What would happen? What will happen? Right? Some people call me and ask me, what do I think? I said, how do I know? I'm in the same boat as you are. But at some point, at some level, I think we need to start with the self-acceptance. Yes, this is the situation. Yes, this is my current state. Once we accept it, once we realize the problem, then there is always a solution. So most of the times, we keep complaining about it. We keep talking about it. We keep sharing about it. But what we don't realize is what we are sharing, what we are talking, we don't have an acceptance of it. We did not agree. My ego is not agreeing to that is the problem. All of us have some or the other form of addiction, but we are not acknowledging it. So any problem solution starts with the self-acceptance. Hey, this is my problem. Let me address it. Especially in case of, bipolar patients, right? The most difficult thing about them is they don't realize, they don't accept for any treatment. That's why it takes long to, treat such patients. All right, so let's get into the topic. I think there is a typo there. Point A. All right, so what are we talking about here? What is this point A, B, C you see on the screen? First, so today we're going to practice a couple of exercises of this point A and B. And then if time permits, we'll do a quick meditation. But before we get into this point A, B, C, let's understand, okay, this is a problem. So the problem has to be solved in two ways. Two ways is, so any emotion, like we discussed in our previous topic, any emotion creates an impression. Any emotion. If any action the emotional reaction to that action is saved as the memory on top of consciousness. So in Sanskrit, in Hindi, it's called Chit, means consciousness. Chitta means the memory associated with it. That memory associated with it is pretty much driving what we do, how we react, what we like, what we dislike, what we hate, what do we feel guilty about. Everything is driven by this memory. So this consciousness, this memory creates certain vibrations on the energy field of the human system. This energy field is not on the physical body. The energy field is of the subtle body. Maybe that's a discussion for our future topics. What is subtle body? What is physical body? And what is the causal body? But any body, a body means covering. The physical body, we know what physical body is. The mental body is known as subtle body. So most of the energy flow within a human anatomy is this mental flow of the energy across the various systems within the body, which we uh, call or recognize it as spiritual anatomy, just like your physical anatomy. So the spiritual anatomy is denoted by certain knots, right? K and O T. In short, we call it as points. So these points is where when this knot is formed, that energy channel, energy flow is in certain way impeded or stopped. So there is some accumulation happens around these points. So when these accumulations happen, it distorts the energy field around that point. When this energy field around the point is distorted, it will have certain effects on our physical system as well as on the mental system, right? So if you understand that idea, so then these knots or points makes more sense, right? And so then why are we talking about this knot? So let me explain. There is, even for the people who are practicing this heartfulness for a long time, have some confusion around how these points are used and how the practices on these points are, why there is some cleaning, why there is some meditation. So these impressions, when we have these impressions formed, they need to be cleaned. But at the same time, like I mentioned, there is also some distortion happening on these points. So any distortion means certain disintegration. When that certain disintegration happens, the system is out of balance. Now here, when it comes to the spiritual anatomy, we are not only talking about a single individual. Now we are coming to a collective individual when it comes to spiritual anatomy. Though we are looking at an individual point in one individual, but the spiritual anatomy is not a single entity, it's a collective entity. That means it's a collective entity across the universe, across everything which is living and non-living. So when we talk about integration, we just don't talk about integrating my mind and body. We are talking about a universal integration. And we should also understand how this helps, in getting rid of our addictions, our mental dependencies, and how we become free. And these are very simple, easy to follow techniques. Simple techniques, we can do it every day. And they're more effective. But the effectiveness is something only you can say it by practicing it. But what is the first and foremost requirement before adopting any technique? Is a self-acceptance. It starts from there. Anything starts from there. Any healing or integration starts from there, right? All right. So having said that, let's understand what the location of these points are. Today I'm going to teach you a technique. So the what you see here is by way of measuring. But I'm going to teach you a technique without measuring, without looking, without touching. You can identify these points. It's very easy. You don't have to be a practitioner for 20 or 30 years to identify these points. Even as a beginner, you can find it out. So if you see on the diagram, where your measurements start is, look at this rib cage cavity and measure from that cavity, measure one finger down, and then move to the left 4 fingers. And what you feel, that point is B. If you touch it, you feel it. You touch anywhere else and touch this point, there's a different feel you get. And slightly 2 fingers above it, towards the nipple, is point A. And 2 fingers below is point C. And 2 fingers to further left is point D. And if you connect your nipple and point D, the middle point is called point 1. We call that as a heart point. And that's where everything begins. So anyone's mental state kind of starts with point 1. And then, in the next sessions, I'll talk about, all the way till we have identified about 13 points. But one fundamental difference, some of you who have been into meditational practices of other systems and who have read on the internet might find these points very strange. I'll tell you a reason. If you read most of this yogic literature, the points identified, what they call chakras, they were all identified along with the spinal cord, right? All the way from, Muladhara to, Sahasrara. You have so many chakras identified. They're all along the spinal cords. And what is the spinal cord? Physically, the entire nervous system to the body is through the spine, and all of them are connected to the mind directly. Underline this point, directly to the mind. So when we stimulate these chakras, they release certain energy, and my nervous system is not equipped to handle that energy. Those who understand electricity, each copper wire, according to its thickness, it can only handle so much electricity. What happens if you move more electricity through that copper wire? It burns, right? That's what you call the short circuit to be. So our nervous system is also equipped only to handle so much current through it. Nervous system is nothing but electricity. So when we stimulate these chakras, it releases excess energy along the spinal cord. I'm referring to the chakras along the spinal cord. And it creates certain damage to the physical and mental system. But if you see in the heartfulness, all these points, knots which are identified are on the frontal, where it's not directly connected to any nervous system. And practicing, meditating on them or stimulating them doesn't cause any damage. So that's why it's a very easy and simple and with no side effects system, no good, bad side effects. So, okay, with that introduction, let me get to the what is point A. So what happens is we constantly think about worldly problems, worries, all this affect point A. And if you read about point B, our passions, desires, emotional reactions, including lust, is accumulated on point B. And point C, again, you will see some of the points common between point A and B. The reason you see them common is um, first initially, it all the way drops any emotions from the top to the bottom in the energy system. Point C being at the bottom, it kind of comes to the point B and it gets reflected to point A and B. So point A accumulates a different set of impressions and point B accumulates different set of impressions. But if you see the point A, mostly it's all about the worldly problems, external world. And if you see point B is all about myself, my emotional reactions, my desires, my passions. And point D is about guilt. The guilt accumulates on point B, point D. And they say, guilt is the hardest impression to get rid of. And it creates a lot of heaviness in us. And I mean, I don't have to talk about guilt. There are so many forms of it, right? So many forms of it. So, as you've seen, this all these points are our day-to-day reactions, our day-to-day interactions, right? And day-to-day interactions, day-to-day emotions, passions, likes, dislikes, many things like that. And anything, when we say I feel with my heart, where is the feeling? All the feelings are in the heart only. Whether it's a love, whether it's hatred, whether it's anger, where are these emotions felt? It's in the heart. Why? As you see, the accumulation is all around this A, B, C, D, and point one. As one of the heartfulness teachers, Babuji, puts it, the heart is the gutter of the humanity. How much ever we think it is so pure and high, it is pure and high unless we make it pure. Otherwise, it's a gutter of the humanity. All right. I see on the chat someone posted, I felt like I have felt these points mostly when I feel strong sense of compassion. Yes. So compassion is also, another form of emotion. But as this compassion is refined, it transforms into love. All right. So before we get into other practices, it's always good to start with a relaxed mind. I'm going to play a 3-minute video. We're going to do the relaxation exercise. Those of you who joined for the first time, The relaxation exercise is very simple. We close our eyes and we sit, comfortably in a chair or wherever, sofa, bed, doesn't matter. And give a supposition. Start with the supposition that the energy from the earth flowing through our feet and slowly entering each and every part of my system. So we kind of move up through the feet, into the stomach, into the hands, shoulders, to the face, to the head, and then back into the heart. And that's where we rest. So it walks you through these steps. Please follow the instructions. And there is a pause in between each instruction. The pause is for us to kind of use that pause for relaxation and then follow the next instruction. So relax each part of your muscle or the energy field around that place, and then we move to the next and move to the next. It's a very simple exercise. I'll play the video and please follow the instructions. It will be for 3 minutes.
Feel it's attracting you inwards.
Sorry, already. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Heartfulness Relaxation and Meditation. I'm going to walk us through a very simple practice of meditation. We'll begin with relaxation for a few minutes, and then I'll guide you into the meditation part. The total meditation time will be 20 minutes. However, if you can only do 5 or 10 minutes, that's fine. So let's get started. Welcome to the Heartfulness Guided Relaxation. Let's start with our feet. Wiggle your toes and let them relax. Make the thought that a current is flowing up from the earth, relaxing your feet, ankles, calves, and knees. Now this healing current is moving into your thighs and hips, softening the muscles and releasing any tension. Relax your waist and lower back. Allow this current to move up into your chest and upper back and shoulders. Every muscle is deeply relaxing. Now this healing current is moving into your arms, forearms, palms, and fingers, carrying away any tension. Bring your awareness to your neck. Allow every muscle to completely relax. This healing current is now moving up into your face, relaxing the jaw and mouth, the nose and eyes, Now feel your body from the toes to the top of your head is completely relaxed. Gently bring your awareness to your heart. Imagine you're resting your thought on the source of light already present in the heart. Feel it's attracting you inwards. If thoughts arise, gently come back to the source of light already present.
Please gently open your eyes. So now that we are relaxed, let's do another exercise of identifying this point A and B. What we do is, in this area, just put your hand below the nipple, and this area, just tap it gently once and remove your hand, close your eyes, and just focus on this area for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and let's see what we find. All right, gently open your eyes. So if you observe carefully and go back to this 2 minutes, what you felt. At one point, you feel a slightly a pulling or a kind of a slight pinching kind of a force you're feeling. Let me know if anyone felt it. You can unmute and say yes.
Yes.
Slightly pinching. That's your point B. You can measure it if you're not feeling, but if you feel it, that is your point B. Now, let's go back and meditate, focus on that point and observe little bit above that point. Don't totally focus on that point, identify that point and little bit focus on the point above. If someone is very, visual minded, they can clearly see it, but just try to feel it. Gently open your eyes. For point B, if someone is visual, they might see it as a dark little, a like little circle dark circle, and just 2 fingers above it, you will see this smaller dot, a gray dot, kind of a circle as point A. But if you don't see it, don't worry. I mean, you can obviously feel it by touching or measuring it. And so, how a point A meditation is done and point B cleaning is done. A common question which is asked is, why point B cleaning, why not point B meditation? Or why point A meditation, why not point A cleaning? Is a very common question which is asked. Like I said, there are two parts to it. One is integration, one is clearing the impressions. Since point A is associated with all the worldly thoughts, we want to, now there is a separation because the mind is going out, so there is certain disintegration. We want to collect it, we want to bring it together. So how do you bring it together? By meditating, by meditation, through meditation, right? So that's why point A meditation. And it is very highly effective, self-indulging tendencies. I mean, I'll tell you my own self-indulging tendency, right? Uh, Sometimes in my imaginations, right? Suppose if I hear from a big leader of the country, and suddenly I would imagine what would I do if I become that leader. And in that 1 hour, half an hour of thinking, I would change the whole country. That's another form of self-indulgence. Like this, we have so many. We always projecting ourselves what we are not. We are never true to ourselves. The one of the spiritual master, Chariji, the heartfulness master, he says, we must be the same inside and outside. How can I become the same inside and outside? I have my own imaginary personality. There is no way I can be the same. But if I do this point A meditation regularly, it is possible. It removes all the self-indulging imaginary tendencies. It will allow me to see what I am. And also this point A meditation, it brings all the humanity together and make me feel it as one. Everyone is mine. Everything is me. So imagine if that in that state, I'm always in an integrated state with everyone, walking on the street, I'm integrated with everyone. Going to workplace, I'm integrated with everyone. Most of the people complain, oh, there are so many politics in the office. Why? Because everyone is, through these self-indulgent tendencies, they've created certain competition which does not exist. In that competition, the human behavior changes. But all the correction happens with myself. So let me correct myself. So how do we do that? That's fix your attention on point A with a thought that all women and men of the world are your sisters and brothers, and hold your thought on this while you meditate on point A. And how long you do this? For 5 minutes. And when do you do it? Before your bedtime. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Do it with all your heart in it. Suddenly, all your prejudices, hatred, anger towards others, everything drops off, because now you see everyone as you. Everything is integrated into you. You are integrated into everything. So that is why point A meditation. right? So try this tonight. Follow this instruction. Very simple instruction, right? Just give a thought, a heartful thought, that all women and men in this world are my brothers and sisters. And it is also that, they are receiving all the spiritual benefit you are receiving. Hold on to this thought and go to bed and see how fresh you wake up next day morning, and how fresh you can sleep all day, how deep sleep you go into. See it for yourself. And it removes all these tendencies. Self-indulging, hatred, anger, everything is removed. Just by simple 10 minutes doing this. And when you go to work, you feel it's like as if you entered your home. No politics, no differences. Because it's not in you to see it. You are free. And this also removes, a lot of, other addictive tendencies we spoke about. Now coming to the point B cleaning. How point B cleaning is done? Now we already know how to feel the point B, how it is done, right? So this is done before starting the morning meditation, right? And again, the point B cleaning has to be done for 10 minutes. I'll explain why this 10-minute limitation once we go through this point B cleaning process. And fix your attention on point B. Imagine all impurities, grossness are going out from point B, from the front of the body. It's a frontal kind of a cleaning. It's evaporating, getting exhausted, all the impressions which the point B has accumulated. It's just a supposition, and we mentally allow it to happen. And we call this as a cleaning process. So there's a point B cleaning. We just fix our attention on point B and then give a supposition all these impurities are leaving our system. And as this process is going on, the glow of the soul, my higher essence, is begins to appear from behind. It's filling all my heart. So allow this mentally to happen. Initially it sounds a little odd if you're doing it for the first time, but as you do it, it makes sense. Any process is like that, right? As you do it, it makes sense. It's like this, the kids, whose mother is trying to potty train them. It's a big punishment. It doesn't make sense to them. But as you become older and older, it makes sense. Same thing with this process too. It makes sense as you do it. Okay. So the process is similar to the daily cleaning. The daily cleaning, how we do it, we imagine all the impressions are evaporating from the back through the entire system, right? And here point B is like, since it's a, mostly a frontal point, we kind of take it from the front side. It's easier to do it that way. And from the behind, the glow of the soul is filling the entire heart and entire system. And when do we do this? We do it, before our morning meditation, if we practice it. But what we can do today is, let's see how much time we have. It's only 6 minutes we have to 3. So let's do this point B cleaning for 3 minutes and try it out, and then we can discuss. So how you do it is close your eyes and relax. fix your attention on point B. You can feel it, locate it. And give a supposition all the impressions, impurities from point B are getting exhausted from the front. And let this process continue. Feel the glow of the Atman, the soul, is filling your entire heart from behind. Gently open your eyes. Even this 3-minute exercise, if you see, it gives us so much relaxation. Certain we feel suddenly lot of burden is left from us. Right? So this, since these points are very sensitive, they're not really a typical knots. It's not advised to do these practices on it for a long time because it creates deeper effects, and it is not necessary. So anything, the heartfulness, anything is about achieving moderation, and we must uh, practice. Even the spiritual practice is with certain moderation, right? And in life we want to have the burdens in certain moderation, otherwise we won't behave. It reminds me an interesting story. In this, there's a Sufi saint. So from his teacher, he hears this definition of a saint. A saint must be ready to take all the burdens of this world. So he thought for himself, I don't have anything, I just have my own simple clothes. This most of these Sufi saints, they live like nomads. They don't have a house, they don't have any possessions or anything, right? And so he thinks for himself, I do have some pains in my life, but now I am a saint. I'm supposed to take all the burdens of this world. and he prays to the Lord, the Allah. Says, oh Lord, give me all the burdens. And he goes to sleep. In sleep, he has this dream. In the dream, so he carries all the burdens in a bag, in a gunny bag, right? And then he says, okay, the God orders, throw everybody's burden into the temple's room, and the saint will pick, any other's burdens. So he goes with his gunny bag to throw the burdens, and all the villagers, they're coming with their burdens in the gunny bags. And when he looked at those bags, each bag is at least 100 times bigger than his. But anyway, since he thought he will take anybody's pain, he'll throw his bag into the room. And after 5 minutes, the realization dawns on him. With this, my small gunny bag, if my life is so troublesome, what will happen if I pick a big one? He could not bear that thought. He got scared suddenly, and he'll rush towards the temple. And then he realizes the whole village is also rushing towards the temple. And then he stops one guy and asks him, "Why are you rushing towards the temple?" He says, "I realized my bag is smaller than everybody's bag." The villager is telling the saint. And now I'm afraid if somebody picks up my bag, then I'll end up picking a bigger bag, means bigger troubles. So everyone is rushing back to pick their own burdens. So moral of the story is, when we look at our burdens, they appears to be very painful, but when we start looking at others, they are even bigger. You know. So what we are trying to do with all these practices is reduce the effect of those burdens. We are not really reducing the burdens. But as our lifestyle changes, as we simplify our lives, the challenges we face, totally changes, drastically changes. The more and more simplify we life, there are less and less we need to handle the external situations. It will prompt us to reflect, go into this refuge, into this solace more and more, to find the real self, the real higher self. All right. As you see, these are heartfulness practices. You can learn about them by going to heartfulness.org. You can register for master classes. You can register for the Udemy classes. There's a Hearts app you can download, and you can connect globally with any trainer, heartfulness trainer, and get a meditation session. And the practice and teaching of heartfulness is free. All of you are welcome to try it out. With this, I'll open for any questions. And I see one question on the chat window. So when triggered by addiction, can we do a point A and point B cleaning? And it will lessen the addiction? Yes. But if that addiction is affecting your health and requires medical assistance, medical help, please do so. Don't treat this as a treatment. But definitely this will alleviate, reduce the burden of that addiction. And again, any addiction depends on you. Like I said, self-acceptance when it starts with, and definitely seek medical help if it is troublesome. And yeah, any sort of, like I said, there are so many addictions, right? And they say, we tend to eat more food because we feel some stress in the mind and it relaxes us. But if I remove the root cause, then the side effects which are associated with it also will reduce. Right? So please unmute yourself if you have a comment, feedback, question.
Sure, I have a question.
Yeah.
So what about the 9 p.m. universal prayer? Do you recommend that we do it on point A? Because I've never seen specified that how we should meditate on when we do a 9 p.m. prayer.
So let me say this, my definition of the prayer. The prayer means it is addressing to the higher self within you, and that higher self is again universal, right? So in a 9 p.m. prayer, in a prayer, we are addressing to that higher self, higher essence, saying that everyone in on this earth are feeling, this a strong devotion, and they're getting attracted towards this essence. So that is also a sort of integration, just like point A. But that is not on any point. It's a mental supposition uh, to the Almighty. And here I'm not qualifying who the Almighty is. It's your own higher essence, right? And if someone has their own, religious beliefs, if they have a different understanding of what that Almighty is, let that Almighty address that issue. That everyone is getting attracted towards it. And then the point A meditation is very specific to my own essence that I must integrate with this universe. So the instructions kind of sound similar, but point A has a very specific intention, and the universal prayer has a specific intention. So all these practices, of course, at the end of the day, to integrate us into this bigger universe, the entire, the meditation or the cleansing, whether it's point A, point B, or universal prayer, they're all geared towards one goal: for me to become one with that essence. And along with me, everyone is joining that essence. Because now I'm an integral part, then I'm not an individual who is progressing and reach my goal. That cannot happen. But good question, Novi. Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Your stories are always great. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I have a question about point D.
Uh-huh.
We talked about cleaning of point A and B, right? But you said that the hardest or the strongest is the guilt. And so what do you recommend to clean point D? Do we have any practices for point D cleaning?
Yes, we do. But I did not discuss that today. We have something called, if you go to the heartfulness, Babaji's maxims, 10 maxims. One of the 10th maxim says, this is again point A meditation. After point A meditation, we go to this bedtime prayer, what we call. Before the bedtime prayer, there is a supposition we make, kind of an agreement we make with ourselves that we sort of repent for all our mistakes, and then we take a resolve that we don't repeat them again. We pray for the strength, and then we do the bedtime prayer. The bedtime prayer is again an acknowledgement or a statements of what we have to become, the goal we have to reach, and then we go to bed with that thought. So the maxim 10 is a only remedy for guilt. I don't think there is any other remedy.
Okay,
But if you
thank
are
you.
interested in it, I mean, we can talk about it in our next sessions.
Sure, that will be great. Thank you.
Sure. All right, I guess no questions. I'll again share this my presentation on the chat window. Please copy it before the session is ended. And but if you don't get it, you can always message me or text me. This meeting ID is my mobile number, and please do so. And if you need to schedule any sessions with the trainer, please download WhatsApp, or you can message me, and or you can go to the hotspots and find the nearest trainer for you and get in touch with them and get the schedule one-on-one sessions, and they're really helpful in they accelerate our progress. All right, thank you all. Thanks for joining, and I'm ending. I'll wait on the call until everyone drops out. But if you have any questions, you can always ask me.
Thank you.